And we should be live now. Hey everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Everything Outside Code. And today I have a fantastic guest, terrific guest on the show today, Matt Brown. It's interesting I call this a show, but that makes it fun. That makes it really fun. Welcome to today's episode, Matt.
Hey, thanks, William, for having me on. Excited to be here.
Yeah, super excited to have you on. As usual, on these shows, I think I'm going to keep with that cadence now. On these shows, we talk about everything outside code. So the really hard parts, some folks like to call it the boring parts, but I think they're super interesting and also very important. The hard parts of taking products to market. We're going to talk about everything GTM. Matt's working on customer OS, and I'm really fascinated about CRMs because for a really long time I didn't understand what a CRM did or what it still does. I use it for one function. And you want to say something, Matt?
Yeah, me neither. So I'm with you. For a long time, I didn't know what they were or why they existed. So I'm totally with you.
Yeah. So, but I do know that they are important. And today we're going to talk about CRMs. We're going to talk about go-to-market and just any other thing that piques our interest. If you have any questions or you want to contribute in some way in the comments, please, just leave your questions in the comments, either on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Twitter. We'll see them and we'll take care of them. We'll just jump right to the man of the moment, Matt. Could you tell us a bit about yourself, a bit about your background, and how you got to the stream?
Yeah, so I've spent my entire career in venture private equity backed businesses. I'm an entrepreneur. Spent my entire career building companies. Customer OS is my fourth company. I've had one failure, one that's still going pre-IPO, another one we sold in 2020 for 519 million, and now Customer OS, which we started a bit over 2 years ago. Customer OS, we help B2B founders build repeatable, scalable growth, and we've built it as an operating system for growth. And what I mean by that is it gives you all the tools that you need based on my learnings on what works in B2B SaaS over the last 3 companies. We give you all those tools to make it easy for your marketing, your sales, your customer success, your support, all your customer facing teams to be aligned around one thing.
I think that is super impressive. The value proposition of, hey, I have this $519 million exit and I'm building this tool to help you get there. I think that's pretty strong.
Yeah. So the one thing that people forget about SaaS in general, right, is 80%, 87% of all the market returns in SaaS are accrue to the top 10% of all B2B companies. So you have to be in the top 10%. And in order to be in the top 10%, you can't go to market like the other 90%. Right. So you have to have if you're doing the same thing as everybody else, you'll achieve the same results as everybody else. So you have to think differently. And there's a formula for it. Just like Mr. Beast has figured out a formula for going viral with every single video he puts out on YouTube, there is a formula for creating hypergrowth out of a B2B company. And so all we've done is we've taken the playbook that I've accrued over the last 15 plus years and tried to systematize it and put it into software and make it available to everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I want that formula for hypergrowth. Is there a summarized version you can just get right away?
Yeah, well, we can talk about it. Yeah. So the thing about B2B go to market is there's really only two things that you need to worry about. Number one is what change are you selling and for whom? Right? If you can solve both of those, you've got a monster. Simple but not easy. When it comes to selling change, people buy change. They don't buy products, and that's the first thing developers in particular get wrong. Right? They think that if they build a better product, that people will naturally buy it. That's not true. In fact, most of the time, the best product does not win. It's the best go-to-market motion that wins. And so the first thing you have to keep in mind is that people buy change. Now, in order to sell change, you have to do three things. You have to convince people they have a problem. Because if you don't admit you have a problem, you'll never change. You have to convince people on the right way to solve the problem. Because if you don't know how to solve the problem, you'll never change. And then you have to actually implement the solution. So when you start thinking about how to build out your sales or your go-to-market motion, I like to say that every sale is actually sold 3 times. You have to sell the problem, you have to sell the way to solve the problem, and you have to sell the implementation. Most people forget steps 1 and 2. They go straight to 3. It's what I call the fuck on the first date principle. Like they try to hit you with a pickup line, ask you to jump on a call, and then try to close the deal right then and there. It might work 1 out of 1,000 times. You might get lucky, but if you want to build repeatable, scalable growth, you actually got to work for it. So that's the first side of it. The second side of it is for whom. And most people sell to one person in a company, and unless you're selling to a startup founder or you're trying to do a product like growth motion to an individual developer, that doesn't work. Because the way businesses buy is they buy through what I call decision teams. And those decision teams are typically made up of 3 types of people. They're made up of the economic buyer, so the budget holder. They're made up of the champion or the sponsor, like the person who actually wants to drive this forward. Which is typically some sort of user or somebody that's going to benefit. And it's made up of the technical evaluator, so the product person or the technical person who's going to make sure it works for them. So if you put that together, you actually have to, in order to be successful in B2B go-to-market, you have to move all 3, and it could be 3, it could be 10, it could be any number. You have to, but let's say it's 3. You have to move all 3 through all 3 of those steps.
Yeah.
Right, in order for the deal to convert. So it's not 1 cell, it's really 9 cells. And as soon as you start approaching it in this way and you start thinking systematically about, okay, like I need to go check all of these boxes and move them all the way down the funnel, what you realize is B2B sales isn't this linear pipeline like most people think it is. It's in fact, it's quantum. Because I can have multiple people exist in multiple states at the same time. And my goal is I have to collapse all of that down to the entire decision team, convinced that they have a problem, know how to solve it, and have decided that I'm the best way to solve it for them. Yeah. And so that's the secret. There you have it. You do that, you're in the top 10%, and you've got a several $billion business.
Transformation, the first one you mentioned, right? Selling transformation. I think that's the part a lot of, I would say, founders, maybe first-time founders, miss out. Because I've spoken to a lot of founders, and typically they get very attached emotionally to what they're building. They personify what they're building. It becomes them, that they sell the product rather than the transformation that they offer. Have you seen a lot of this in the 80% that you talk about?
Yeah, it's probably 99%. It feels really good to talk about yourself, right? Everyone loves talking about them. I'm here on the show talking about me and what we do, right? It feels good.
I'm happy you're doing that.
It feels good. But it isn't about you in business. In business, it's about the person that you're helping, and the quicker that you reframe that, the more revenue you get. The really interesting counterintuitive principle here is revenue is not the objective in business. It's a byproduct, right? You have to create value before you can capture it. And so the way you create value is by figuring out what change your customers want to make, and then help them
Mm-hmm.
achieve that, right? Help them make that
Yeah.
change. If you can't do
Yeah.
that, you'll never generate revenue, no matter how hard you try. And so that small little reframe is the secret. It's as close to a cheat code as you can possibly get in business.
Yeah. You're 100% right. I think I did reach that something around 14, 16 months ago when running the company, that once we talked about the value we brought to the table, the transformation, just focused on that, forgot about revenue. Within 1 year, we saw our revenue grow by 6x. And I
I believe
wasn't
it.
even thinking about it.
Yeah, I
And
believe it.
since then, like the revelation has sort of been shocking. And I just try to preach that. I speak transformation. I feel like I should print transformation on a t-shirt and just wear it everywhere whenever I talk to anyone. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
transformation is a bit of a corporate word for me. I like change. Change. Everyone
yeah,
understands change.
change. Yes, definitely change is. Would you say this also applies to service businesses? Because recently I was having a conversation with the head of content, and I purposely wrote the copy on our website. For instance, going to like the detail, I wrote the
Mm.
copy on our website to be focused on what anyone would get out of Hackmamba, out of our service. And that's it. That's what I set my mind to 12 months ago. Same now. But he's of the opinion that we should talk about us and what we do. And this is me putting him, like, just airing this out. If the notion that we focus on transformation, is this for mostly B2B SaaS products, or does this also apply to an agency or a service business?
No, it's applicable everywhere. Nobody cares about you, and unless it's your
Yeah,
mom, nobody cares. Right? Yeah.
true.
uh, and the quicker you get over that hurdle, the better off you'll be at marketing, the better off you'll be at positioning, the better off, the more genuine you will come off towards your customers, because your customers know
Mhm.
know when it's about them and when it's about you. They feel that they can sense it, and um, the goal here is to find the intersection of where you can help your clients the most, achieve the most success, while at the same time generating success for you as a business and success for your team, right? Uh,
Mhm.
a good deal is only good when it's good for the customer, the business, and the team, right? And
Yeah,
and so you got to go figure out what is that service or product, doesn't matter, that can satisfy all three of those. And unless you do that, you don't have a viable business. So that is a prerequisite for growth.
yeah, 100% agree to that. So, um, thinking of the topic of CRM, I'm very curious. In your opinion, what's a CRM? Because the CRM basically it's customer, but then CRMs apply to folks that are not even customers yet.
Yeah,
They come into a CRM. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on, so far, what do you see as a CRM?
CRM is a word that was invented a long time ago by men in suits who did business by fucking people over. The term
Yeah.
the term literally means customer relationship management. I don't know how many relationships you manage. If you're married, go try and manage your significant other and see how that plays out for you. I, it,
Yeah.
it, Nobody wants to be managed. What they want is partnership, and so
Mhm.
it's a category that exists out there and based on legacy pretense. But what it typically represents is all of the various touch points with your data, with your customers, that you need to know so that you understand where they are in the economic cycle, and you can figure out whether you need to be selling them more or not. Um, the way the way we approach it is hopefully putting a new spin on the CRM, and in that, we want all your customer data in one spot. for one reason, so that you know how to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time to help them the most. And in order to do that, you need to gather all the different data points in the
Mhm.
customer lifecycle that go far beyond just tracking an opportunity or tracking, which salesperson called whom last week. You need to start looking at things like, are they actually using the product? Have they actually renewed and upsold? Can we use that to identify who my best customers are and push them back up into my lead funnel and start lead scoring the leads that are coming in against people who look like my best customers? So we think that the CRM needs to evolve into more of an operating system, hence the name of the company, Customer OS, because it's all connected. It's all connected. There is no linear progression between marketing to sales to customer success to support. That's an outdated system. It's all circular. It's all cyclical, and it all ties together, and it all needs to work together in one spot.
I do know most times, for instance, I just use Hackmember as an instance. We do have a CRM. I believe Pipedrive is a CRM.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So we do use Pipedrive, but that's for sales, right?
Yeah.
And it is a CRM. I'm unsure of how to translate a tool like Pipedrive, for instance, to manage our customers. So I manage our customers on Notion because I could just put it in there, right? And then I start to think, how do I pull multiple teams? How do I instrument this to maybe Pipedrive supports this, or there's a system out there that would let multiple teams collaborate on one tool and get value out of it, right? But then I don't know how this would work. And I think that's sort of like a blocker to people using or getting the most out of a CRM, is that so many teams have to function in, but it's just a bit difficult to put it together.
Totally. And so typically what you see are early stage teams. They try to do it in a Notion or a spreadsheet, and they share it amongst everybody in the organization. And that works up to the point where you start hiring independent sales and marketing people. And then it breaks. As soon as you bring in somebody to run sales, they're going to want pipeline management. And so they're going to bring in a Pipedrive or a HubSpot or a Salesforce or whatever you want there. I can tell you at scale in my last company, Voxbone, we had over 20 different systems that touch customer data.
Wow.
And yeah, because if you think about all of your attribution systems, all of your advertising and marketing systems, your email marketing, your customer support, your product analytics, like if you take all your systems and add them up, it was about 20 different systems. And if you want all that data to be available to everyone that interfaces with customers, you have to write a whole bunch of code to make it work. And this was the whole origin story behind Customer OS is after we sold Voxbone, I did a bunch of investing in startups and advising with startups, and realized that they were all going through the exact same pains, exact same. They would start in a Notion or a spreadsheet, or an Airtable. They would get to a certain point, right at the point where they actually needed to grow fast because they had product market fit. Their entire system broke, and they were having to go buy a whole bunch of different systems. Then they lost visibility, and their teams were then out of sync. And so the way you solve that is by having a single place that can actually manage this across the entire customer lifecycle and walk you through that quantum sales mechanic, and push that into your customer in life so that you can follow the whole process from awareness to promise, progress, and payoff, right? And then do it again, right? Because it doesn't stop at just solving one problem. You should be data mining your customers for the next problem, and then that's how you create this repeatable growth loop, and expand your ARPU within your account base. But it requires a ton of coordination and all the data to be available in one spot.
Yeah, I was just going to say coordination, because you just mentioned probably like 3 to 4 job functions in between, and I feel like you outed me from the part where we start with sheets and then everything breaks down, and then you figure you need something, but you don't know what it is. Um, what's the best way to put this coordination in place? Is it a person that needs to come in and say, okay, I'm in charge of doing all these things? Is this the job of, say, a CMO or a head of growth? Whose responsibility is it? Is this shared responsibility? Do we have someone accountable for it? Because I know a lot of
Yeah.
teams go through this coordination problem.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different structures that I've seen work. All of them have their various pros and cons. One common one that is sprouted up recently is the CRO. So having your sales, your marketing, and your customer success. So those responsible for delivering revenue aligned to one person. That's good. It needs to be coupled with I think a very strong like customer advocate, and somebody who is responsible for the user experience and maintenance of the in-life product and the product deliverables. So that I've seen that type of structure work. I've also seen many people try to split between new customer acquisition and in life. That works a little less well, because then you create situations where you're acquiring a bunch of bad customers. So you're buying churn, as I like to call it, and you never feel the pain in the same area. So the point is, the more that you can make the ultimate responsibility align in a single direction, the better off. And you can do that. You don't necessarily have to do it by making everyone report to the same person. You can do it through what I call a North Star metric. And your North Star metric is the KPI that you put on the unit of value that you create for your customer. So not revenue, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Not revenue, because revenue is a byproduct.
And
You
who's responsible for this North Star metric? Because I know
you would
we
you would
set the
make
metric.
you'd make the entire
Mhm.
company responsible for it. So the entire senior leadership would have this North Star metric as their objective, and then they would break down their own departmental objectives underneath that. That's probably the best way to do it, because given the composition of your team, it may look slightly different at an early stage company versus a later stage company, but the North Star metric will always tie it together.
Yeah. Huh. That makes a whole lot of sense. Um, it'd be nice to see, but then I think about startups, or at least scale ups,
Yeah,
right? They're starting to form this senior leadership. Maybe it's still two people in there, CEO and a CTO. CEO does everything operational, CTO takes care of the product. Should
yeah.
this be shared amongst them, or do they find someone else to bring
No,
into the team?
so Hack Mama, you help people uh, do
Yep,
do
we create
technical
original
writing,
technical content. Yeah.
right? So your North Star metric might be pieces of content created,
Mm,
right?
yeah. I mean, for us, we base our metric on the time to deliver value to the customer. That's sort of our metric at the moment.
Yeah, and I would create it. I would consider that a sub metric, because ultimately what you want is your North Star metric to be a metric that, as you increment it, you also grow your business, right? You acquire more customers and you generate revenue, right?
Yeah.
And so if you chose something like pieces of content created, right, that directly correlates with customer acquisition. It directly correlates
Yeah.
with growth, right? And
True.
your technical team should carry that same objective, right? Because they're going to have to build systems that support that growth, and they can often be a bottleneck to that growth. And so you're going to want them. You're going to want them aligned to it. But that one metric, if you cascade that across all your teams, what you'll find is marketing can actually create strategies to go and drive more demand for creating more content, and sales can create actionable strategies, and customer success can create actionable strategies. So that's why it's the North Star metric. And revenue is a byproduct, right?
Yeah,
The more content
true.
you create, the more revenue you're going to make. The reason you do this is because the easiest way to grow revenue in the short term is to raise your prices. Lock your
Yeah.
lock your customers into long-term contracts so they can't leave, and jack up your rates. Right?
Yeah.
It's the easiest way to increase revenue, but you've just fucked off your entire customer base, right? You're getting churn in 3 years.
Yeah.
So you need another metric that more accurately measures the health of your business, because revenue can be gamed too easily.
Yeah. That's right. North Star metric. That's something I think every startup should have, at least, or even think about it from day one. Do you think?
Absolutely, and it can
Yeah,
change. It can change, but
exactly. I was going to ask.
yeah, it can change as you get smarter about the market, and you get smarter about what problems and what change you're affecting for whom. That metric can change, but once you have problem market fit, it should never change. It should always
Did you
be
say
the same.
problem market fit?
Problem market fit, yes.
That's a
Before
new one. Problem market fit, not product market fit.
let's talk about this, right? Before you can have
Okay.
before you can have product market fit, you need to have problem market fit. And this goes back
Okay.
to what I was saying. You have to sell everyone 3 times. The first thing you have to do is sell the problem. Most
Mhm.
people, they go and try to force their product on people as opposed to going out and selling the problem. And so if you can't sell the problem, you'll never have product market fit. And so one good way to do this is to create a hypothesis on the problem that you think people have, and create a resource or content around that problem, and why it matters to them, and why it's really urgent for them to go solve it, and see if people agree with you. And if you can get people to consume that content and shake their head and go, "That's right," that represents the pain that I feel on a day-to-day basis, then you have problem market fit. Um,
Yeah.
and before anyone invests in building a product, I would recommend you go do that, right? Because
Yeah.
you want to make sure that you're solving a real problem. More startups die, more companies in general die because they're solving the wrong problem, right? They're trying to get the product market fit before they ever
Yeah.
verified problem market fit.
Yeah. And I'm curious about this hypothesis, right? Does a founder come up with this hypothesis? Is it from just personal intuition, from looking at the market, guessing, talking to maybe select users? What's the best way to get to these hypotheses? And I assume it's going to be like a number of them, like maybe
Yeah,
three, four.
well, there's only two ways that I've found that work.
Hmm.
One is you've experienced the problem yourself directly, and so you know that you're at least solving for a market of one, or you have talked to users who have expressed this problem to you. Those are really the only ways. If you're trying to solve a problem that you don't have and nobody's told you they have, you're kind of screwed. So don't do that.
Yeah. 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 But I remember someone said if you build a product and from your problem, there's some ways there. If you build a product from someone else's problem, you're a bit closer. But if you build a product that someone's willing to pay for, then yeah, you're definitely there.
Yeah. So again, it goes back to making sure that you have to create value before you can capture it. Right? And so the way you create value is by solving problems. So
Hmm.
you have to verify the problem. The next step after verifying that you have the problem is you have to make sure people agree with you on the right way to solve the problem, right?
Yeah.
Which is step 2 in that 3-step go-to-market framework.
So we have an interesting question from Maxi here that says, "Would love to see some good examples of content that talks about the problem. Does it also include solutions? It don't sounds difficult to get right without that."
No, it does not talk about solutions. It talks about the problem, and specifically around why the problem needs to be solved, and what the urgency is behind this problem. Because uh, when you first introduce yourself to a stranger, which is how I like to think of cold outreach, right? When you first introduce yourself to a stranger, they are either in one of three situations. They either are unaware that the problem exists, which is a lot of them. They're aware that the problem exists. They just don't want to do anything about it right now, or the problem doesn't exist. And your job is to go figure out which one of those three they're in. Right? If they're unaware of the problem, you have to educate them on why it's a problem. If they are aware of the problem but not doing anything, you need to educate them on why the problem is worth solving now. That's the purpose of the content, right? Is to educate, like explain this is why this problem exists, and explain in detail this is why the problem exists and why it's really impactful to your business and people that look like you.
Yeah. So I guess with respect to this hypothesis that we're talking about, if I get you correctly, it's looking at like taking introspective. Is this my problem? Is this a problem someone has, and then talk about this problem, but without the solution.
Yeah,
Looking at
you don't.
Max's question here, and then
Yeah,
see if people resonate with it, or people are looking for a solution or experience the same problem.
you want people to read your content or view your content, however you want to put it in front of them. Right? You want people to consume your content and go, "Yep, that's me." Right? You want them to identify themselves with the problem and the pain that you highlight in there. It's not your job to tell them how to solve it. That comes next, right?
Yeah.
But they have to identify with it first, or else they'll never move forward. Right? There's no point. You're wasting time trying to sell the solution to somebody who doesn't resonate with the problem that you're going after. So sell the problem and the pain first. Then you can move forward. And then step two, the secret is you give them everything they need to solve it themselves. You give away 100% of the secrets. Right?
Okay.
It's not about.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, you give away 100% of the secrets, right? Because what you're wanting them to do is buy into your way of thinking about the solution to the problem, which is ultimately your differentiator. Right? Your differentiator is the way that you go about solving the problem that is different from everybody else in the market. And so if they agree with your framework and your thinking on how to solve it, right? Now the only question is, are they going to do it themselves, or are they going to hire somebody like you to come in and do it for them? And most people are lazy. They're not going to do it themselves.
Yeah, that I can agree with. Yeah. So if I get you correctly, give them the strategy, and the opportunity lies in the execution of it, right? How you actually do it.
Yeah, ideas are free, and you pay for the implementation.
Yeah. And I guess that's why Customer OS is open source.
It's one of the reasons why we've been open source from day one. It's one of the reasons why I'm giving you the secrets to go to market success directly on this show. Right?
Yeah, like this. I mean, these secrets are fantastic. Do you help folks execute on them then? I guess that's the next question.
Yeah, we do, right? So we at Customer OS, we work with early stage B2B founders that have customers, right? So we don't work with pre-revenue companies. But if you have customers and you're looking to accelerate that, we have our platform, which gives you the tooling to do that. And we also have what we call our hypergrowth cohort-based learning product, where you can come in and work with us for 90 days, and we'll teach you how to build all these systems and work directly with you to get them set up over a 90-day period. So we've got both the tools and the education to help you be successful.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece, the education. That isn't, mass produced education, but it's a bit more, here's my situation. Or is that the case? Like, here's my situation. I'm using Customer OS. I'm in your cohort. Let's work towards success.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about taking a framework that works in almost all situation and applying it directly to the specifics of your business with your specific team, right? Because sometimes you need to actually reorganize your team around these strategies. And so we come in and we help set you up on the tooling, but also
Yeah.
make sure that you're thinking about the problem the right way. You're building the right incentives into your team. You have the right people that are responsible for the right objectives and inside the process. Because ultimately, change only happens when you can implement the change yourself, right? And so sometimes you need help. And so
Yeah.
we want to solve the whole problem, right? My personal mission in life is to help back the next 1,000 B2B unicorns, right?
Mhm.
And in order to do that, that's going to require knowledge, tooling, and capital. And as we continue to grow with Customer OS, I hope and intend to provide all three.
Yeah. It seems like you're doing a good job at all three.
We're still very early, but yes, that's
Yeah.
hopefully where we're headed.
Yeah, that's great. Before we started, the stream, you talked about customer OS doing 10% of what's required to go, 80% of the way. Was that how you put it? Could you speak a bit about that?
Yeah. So if we go back to the 20 plus tools that are required in order to build a scaled out go to market motion in B2B, the reality is you only use about 10% of the functionality of each one of those tools. Yet
True.
each tool needs to continually add more features and functionality so they can justify price increases year over year, because that's their primary way of revenue growth. And so you end up paying for feature bloat in these systems. Our goal is to give you the 10% of functionality you need across everything. So the entire horizontal stack, whether it's finding leads. So right now we do lead to cash. So everything from finding leads to prospecting to ICP qualification to customer outreach to managing your sales pipeline, customer health scoring, and billing and invoicing. Right, we do all of that in one platform. We don't have all the power features, and we never will.
Hmm.
If you're a power user in a certain area, you can go buy a purpose-built product and plug it in, and we'll integrate and sync with it. And so that's our strategy. It's to allow you to go buy tooling where you need to go really deep in a given area, and
Yeah.
um, and then make it simple and easy to integrate.
Yeah. I see your pricing also feels a bit split with different modules and services. Does this feed into that same strategy of
So
picking
this,
and choosing?
yeah, so um, I fundamentally believe that the B2B SaaS business model of per seat pricing is dead within the next 10 years. And so we can talk about why in a minute. But
Yeah.
what we've done is we've built a business model that does not price per seat. Our base CRM and customer success tooling is free forever. Um, Instead, where we make our money is everything that plugs into the CRM. So your data enrichment, your customer outreach, your billing and invoicing. These are all things that you can run from the CRM, and we charge a usage-based component to that. So
Hmm.
it's more like AWS in that you pay for what you use. There's no credits to manage. It's not prepaid. You just come in, use what you need to go generate the growth. If we can't provide the data, we don't charge you. If we're not successful in sending the email, you don't get charged. Right? It's the fairest pricing model that we can come up with, while still allowing access to the entire organization. So you don't have to pay for a seat. So your customer's success team can see what sales
Yeah.
told them during the sales cycle or whatever.
Yeah. Fairest pricing possible. I like
Yeah,
that.
we call
Fair.
it outcome based pricing. Right? You only pay us when
Yeah.
you're getting value.
Yeah. I mean, that should be the holy grail of pricing is, again, focused on myself. If I win, you should win. There's no point you
Exactly.
win if be the customer. I'm not winning. And why do you say seat-based pricing is dying and it's gonna be dead in a while?
Yeah. So um, if you look at the way most SaaS systems are built today, they're workflow machines, right? They're a bunch
Mhm.
of if-then statements um, written by humans that are able to basically you write a bunch of switch statements and define your workflow. What's going to end up happening is if a human can define it, AI can write it, and we're already seeing this where companies are
Mhm.
using AI to write their own version of Salesforce and pulling Salesforce out because Salesforce costs them $1 million a year. The ultimately, I think what we're going to see is a bunch of open source versions of all of these tools written in with the help of AI that democratizes access to the CRM, the customer support system, the so on and so forth.
Mhm.
So in that model, it's going to be really, really hard to charge per seat when I can just switch to an open source alternative or write it myself. And so
Yep.
in that world where workflows are free, where does the value accrue? Well, in my opinion, it only accrues to two places, which are the data and the modeling layer. And so we've
Okay.
built the data and the modeling layer. Right? And so we've built Customer OS as a data platform first with models that help you do things like identify your best customers, identify high risk customers that are
Mhm.
at risk of non-renewal, things of that nature. And we're going to monetize our platform that way.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm betting on data, and it's interesting to hear this customer OS is built on data and the data models. Um, I see we're coming up on time. I want to ask a final question, which is when do you feel a startup should get a CRM?
It's the wrong question because you don't ever need a CRM, right?
Okay.
The focus on selling the problem. Right? Once you've been able to sell the problem, go sell the solution to the problem. Right? Give away all the secrets. If you're able to do that, build a product to actually deliver it. If you're doing that repeatedly, invest in tooling to help you scale it. But I wouldn't worry about any of that until you can do those three things first.
Yeah. Hmm. Sell the problem, sell the solution. If you're able to do that and you're finding inefficiencies, then you can find tooling. Maybe not even a CRM, but just tooling that would help you do
Yeah,
that better.
exactly. And as you grow, you'll need more tooling, right? And
Yeah.
look at what's available out there to solve the particular problem that you need and invest in that. Um, that's the best, most pragmatic way to approach this.
Yeah. I think that was fantastic. I think a typical founder would, at this point, sell me customer OS, but that's not what I got. So this is fantastic. Thank you so much, Matt. Do you have any final words? Anything you want to leave for the audience listening?
If anyone wants to chat more on GTM, I genuinely want to help. As I said, my personal mission is to help build the next 1,000 B2B unicorns. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. Come say hi. If anyone wants to reach out to me directly, it's customeros.ai. You can find me there as well.
Yeah, customeros.ai. I think I would do one thing, which is put it right here in chat. I think that's better for anyone to find.
There we
So
go.
yeah, that's it. So customeros.ai. You get tooling and you also get the process. I guess they get advice on the people too that would help
And
run this.
yeah, and we'll come in and help train you and your teams on the best way to implement it as well if you want that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Matt, for jumping on the stream. And thanks for everyone else that was in the comment. Thanks, Maxi, for the fantastic question. And as usual, if you're listening to this on LinkedIn, YouTube, or on X, just hit the like button somewhere. It's below here. And I'll see you I'll see you next week on another episode of Everything Outside Good. Cheers.